Recently, I sawed the chessboard in half and played with just the king side, then made a short explaining why you couldn't really play with the queen side if the goal was to checkmate the queen, because the queen could just easily get out of danger. Obviously, it would still be possible to trap the queen, but this would be way less common, especially if you were discouraged from using the queen offensively. So I concluded that the only thing that would really change is that you wouldn't be allowed to offer a queen trade, and that the game would probably end in a draw almost every time. But there were a few comments saying that since the king is not allowed to move through check while castling, the queen would also not be allowed to move through check. This is a fair point, and it would definitely make this game much more playable, but I don't think this would be how it would work with standard chess rules. Let me explain. The king can usually only move one square, but castling is a special rule that allows it to move two squares. The only other example of this in chess is the pawn's first move, where they can choose to move two squares instead of their usual one square. These two moves share something very important in common. Since both the king and the pawn are meant to only move one square, there are stipulations to these moves that basically assume that the piece makes multiple one square moves in a single turn. With the pawns, if they move two squares, but could have been captured by another pawn if they'd only moved one square, then the opponent can capture your pawn en passant, as if it had only moved one square. This is French for in passing, and it applies to castling in an interesting way that you might not have realized. Obviously, we all know that the king can't move through check while castling. The reason for this is that the king could theoretically be captured if it was making several one square moves. So if it was legal to move into check, with the goal of the game being to capture your opponent's king, then in the event that the king castles through check, it would also be able to be captured en passant. This doesn't exist anywhere else in chess. For example, this castle is legal, and the rook cannot be captured as a result of castling, because the rook made one single move to another square, as it normally would. Even though it moved through a square that is being attacked by an opposing piece, it is completely safe. But there are some problems that might poke a hole in my argument. The biggest ones being that pawns can only be captured en passant by other pawns, so a pawn could freely move two squares without any sort of penalty as long as there isn't an opposing pawn in the right spot. The other issue is that you're also not allowed to castle while in check, not just through check. Using the logic I laid out earlier, it would be perfectly allowed to castle out of check, since at no point during your sequence of one square moves are you putting your king in danger. I don't have a great response to these points, except that the fact remains that the only rules that punish or prevent the player from moving through a square are only in effect when making a multiple square move with a piece that typically moves only one square. For this reason, I stand by my conclusion that playing chess with just the queen side wouldn't really work. It's definitely an interesting question with no clear answer. However, I don't think that it can be assumed that the queen would not be allowed to move through check if it was the piece that had to be checkmated. But I definitely agree that the queen not being allowed to move through check would make queen-sided demi-chess a lot more strategic and fun. I definitely plan to try it out at some point, but let me know what you guys think about these rules. Also, huge thanks to my channel members, Toast, Toby, and Toxic Goat. If you'd like to join this list, a membership is a great way to support what I'm doing. Also, I've been live streaming every weekday around 1:30 p.m. Eastern. I've been playing rated games, viewer games, and viewer arenas. It's a lot of fun, so make sure to stop by. But with that being said, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.